Time to go to church, and time to remember that folks out there a little while ago said it'll be a cold day in Florida when we flip a district. Well, guess what? It's a cold day in Florida. And welcome to the rotation.
Marijuana in my soul, marijuana in my heart.
I'm not exactly certain what Carlos was doing there, but obviously we had something
I was
to do.
cold. I was.
Maybe you should grow more hair on your head. No, sorry. We all have receding hairlines here, don't we?
I have no hairline now.
Except for Alec. I mean,
Speak for yourself, Gary. What are you talking about?
Got a little hair.
oh, I know. That's all your comb over from your back. Don't give me that, bro. Anyways, as I mentioned, we've had some very cold temperatures here in Florida, very unseasonably cold. But if in case it was actually true that it would be a cold day in Florida, if we actually start flipping districts, then I guess the cold is a good thing, because we are so thrilled that the tide is starting to turn, because we do have a situation with a supermajority here in Florida who is a fairly idealized party. And so therefore, when you have those two items in place, a lot of times we cannot get through the messages we have to get through, especially when it comes to what I would consider liberal causes. Although, to be honest with you, I think cannabis is very, very much a bipartisan cause. It's just that for some odd reason, those people in the more liberal parties have been more willing to move forward, maybe because of the fact that they believe more in the free market than the free market people do over on the right. Who knows?
Gary, the other issue is when you have a super majority of just one party, you're right. Bipartisanship goes out the window, because you don't need those other people from across the aisle to govern. You can just push through whatever agenda is coming from the top down. And that's the problem we have in Florida, is that Governor DeSantis' agenda, the Senate president and the Speaker of the House's agenda do not concern the average person, do not concern the people struggling with medical marijuana, do not concern veterans. You know, and then this is the issues that we get. So you get candidates like Tom Keene, who are speaking out for regular people, who are speaking out for medical marijuana patients, who are speaking out for veterans, that can pull huge districts and flip them like that. And, we'll remain to see how that trend goes in Florida. But for right now, we're welcome back to the show now, State Representative Tom Keene. Tom, welcome.
Thank you guys so much. And I did hear that it might have been snowing in Tallahassee on Tuesday, but I can't confirm that.
Yeah, no, I was there on Tuesday. It was it was colder than no, I'm not gonna say that.
It was cold.
it was cold. That's suffice to say. But the fact that there could have been some freezing rain at one point in time, but it didn't snow, thank goodness. There has been snow in Tallahassee in the past. This didn't make it. It got very, very close. But let me take a step back here, because we haven't even introduced ourselves to those people who don't often chime in and get a chance to watch us on Sunday mornings. My name is Gary Stein. I'm your political director here at Suncoast NORML and the Master of Public Health. To my right, your left, is our deputy director, Carlos Angel Hermida. And also our Master of Business Administration.
I do business.
and to my right, we have our Executive Director, once again back with us. We've been gone for a week. Over in Tallahassee, over in DC, in the Beltway, above the Beltway where he hits, and below the Beltway, Christopher Cano.
Thank you.
Yeah. Doing some things on the national level, I hope, as well as working on union issues up there.
Indeed. I serve on the National Board of NORML, and we're in the process of taking the organization from this past 50 years and moving it forward so it can exist for another 50 years. And so that, means that we have to look at how we adapt in this world where half of the states in this country have adult use, that have ended prohibition in one form or another. But there still remains so many other issues around policing, around civil rights, around where you can utilize cannabis, of whether or not you can be fired from your job for using it. So there's so many different things that are happening, whether or not your kids can be taken away. And we're seeing great movement in other states. California and Washington State have eliminated marijuana as employment testing for the vast majority of jobs. The state of New York has removed, your medical marijuana status is being used against you in child custody hearings and whether or not your kids can be taken away. We see several other states where workers' compensation insurance is now paying for people's medical cannabis therapy. All these great things happen in other states can happen in Florida. It's a matter of political will. And that will is lacking from the Florida Republican Party, from the Senate president, from the Speaker of the House, and from the governor, which is why we're pushing so hard to be involved in elections, why we endorse Tom Keene in this special election in House District 35, because we need allies in the state legislature that are going to speak up for the common people whose voices aren't being heard right now. And on that note, there are tens of thousands of small business owners who own hemp businesses that sell hemp products that are being affected, which is why we have our other special guest. Gary, if you want to introduce our other special guest, and then we'll go back to Tom after that.
Okay, and coming to us from sunny Tallahassee, I think. Is that where you are right now, Alex?
Actually, I'm in Fort Lauderdale because we just opened up another wholesale retail store.
That's Pembroke Pines weather down there.
Oh, yeah, Pembroke Pines. It almost takes as much time to drive to Pembroke Pines from here as it does to get to Tallahassee. The only difference is when you drive down there, you end up not in Tallahassee.
Unfortunately for me, I bought a Tesla, so that 6.5 hour drive is more like 9.5 hours. I do not look forward to it this week.
Do you also have a white knuckler thing where you're saying, I hope I can get to the next charging station?
Yeah, actually, all the time, because the more Teslas that are sold, the more crowded the chargers are, the more likely you are to have to wait 30 minutes to charge 30 minutes. But hey, at least I'm saving $40, you know?
Absolutely. And Alex Petrick, by the way, is what is your current office as far as your company is concerned?
So I am the founder of Florida Hemp Distribution. We are a wholesaler and a chain of retail stores and a co-owner of Crystal Creek Organics. That is a product manufacturing company based in Tallahassee.
And being in Tallahassee has got a lot of interesting aspects to it, which we are going to get into in just a bit after we have a chance to talk with our other guest star to your left. And that is, of course, Tom Keene, who is now the representative for District 35, which, by the way, is kind of a wandering district, I should call it. I mean, 2 years ago, District 35 was not where it is right now. It was over on the West Coast, and it was actually covering part of, I think, Citrus County and Pasco County. And now it's Winter Haven and that area there, correct?
Well, we're in Central Florida, and yeah, we remapped last year. Obviously, the district didn't move. We didn't move from the West Coast to Central Florida. Geography didn't change, but we are here in Central Florida. And for those that don't know Florida, Walt Disney World and Universal are our neighbors. So if you visited Orlando, you most probably would have flown into the Orlando International Airport, which is about 1.5 miles from my house. So that's where we are. It's 2 counties. One of the counties, Orange County, has most of the population. And then Osceola, just to our south, is a ranching and agribusiness community. It's a very large geographic district. It's 120 miles from the north to the south. But they raise a lot of cattle in Osceola. But it's also becoming they've got a lot of growth, a lot of subdivisions. A lot of people are moving to Central Florida, and they end up moving to Osceola because of the housing market is a little bit more affordable there. So if you've been in Disney World, you've been near my
and our governor in his brilliant path towards the presidency. I'm facetious there just a little bit. Anyways, he has messed with that district in regards to the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which is part of Disney World that helps them handle their own business as far as Disney World is concerned, and in process is handing all the tax structure that is required to run that area away from Disney and towards the citizens of your district.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. I will say that it's a little bit of inside baseball when we talk Reedy Creek. development district, but that's exactly what happened. The state representative, the reason why we have a special or had a special election is that the state representative from this district carried a bill to dissolve the Reedy Creek Improvement District. And that had all sorts of other issues that came with it, including taxing authority, etc. And that caused a big kerfuffle. That's not the right word, is it?
It's kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
It's one of those Midwestern terms.
Yeah, here in Orange County. And it's and,
I like to say fuck.
yeah. The implications of that are still with us today. So that special election was because the state representative that carried that bill resigned so that he could take a position with the South Florida State University. And so we were given the opportunity. We went out and we talked to the folks, and the voters decided that they'd had enough. And fortunately, I was elected this past Tuesday. I was up in Tallahassee, was sworn in almost immediately, and I am now a sitting member representing House District 35.
Yeah, they already got you in the thick of everything, right?
I went up. I thought I would have a day of decompression, but I got called up on Wednesday that, a little bit of a grog saying, hey, you got to get up to Tallahassee ASAP. So my wife and I drove up in my electric car.
Okay.
There you go. And so not a Tesla, but we drove up to Tallahassee. And then on Thursday, I was fortunate to be sworn in. My wife was allowed to be on the floor with me when that happened. That was fantastic. We had a regular session. I had an opportunity to vote on a few bills. And then on Friday, because of the Martin Luther King holiday, everything kind of shifted to the right. Normally Friday is a light day, but it was a very busy day. And I finished a committee meeting at about 6 p.m. on Friday before driving back to Orlando.
So that means you had a chance to vote on that bill that bans children from social media. Did that come up on Wednesday?
That, I got to tell you, there's so many things that are coming at me right now. I don't know if today's Monday or Sunday. I'm kind of spinning around. So I guarantee that I'm going to be up to speed, ASAP. But right now, I don't know which day, which bills are coming up. But that is a bill that is being heard probably in committee next week.
Gary, you mentioned about there's a bill to ban kids off of certain social media sites. There's even a bill to allow teenagers essentially to, work until midnight on school nights and work on hot roofs in the summertime. Rolling back child labor laws in Tallahassee. I understand the union busting from the Republicans in Tallahassee, but you're reinstituting child labor. How much farther back do we got to go? We're rolling back women's right to health care. We're rolling back labor laws. We're rolling back child labor laws. The civil rights of everyday people are under attack still. And that's why we have some pretty awesome bills rolling through the legislature this session. Senator Tina Polsky is sponsoring our employment protection bill again. We have Senator Sheriff Jones, who's sponsoring a bill to decriminalize cannabis. There's a bill to allow for veterans to not have to pay that $75 fee to get their medical marijuana cards that's floating around. But then again, for every step forward, there's two steps back. There's two bills in Tallahassee. One would limit the THC potency of adult use cannabis if we pass an adult use amendment to 10%. And the other one is to require hemp products to have no more than 2 milligrams of THC in them, in addition to affecting what type of packaging that they can have. So, that's affecting the business of both Carlos and our other guests. Carlos, I want to go to you to hear your thoughts on it.
I do want to talk about the hemp bill, and I know everybody's really eager to talk about the hemp bill, but I'm really confused about the other bill in question because I don't know how you can pass a law just in case shit happens. That's how I understand it, right? I'm correct.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you guys gotta help me with this policy.
In lawyer speak, that's a qualified yes.
So like, we've got people like I literally passed like by 5 homeless people on the side of the road in Ybor City walking up to my business. And
did you ask them if their kids are on social media and is that important to them?
and we're passing bills in case shit happens.
Well, it hasn't passed yet, and it doesn't have a Senate companion. So we're hoping it dies a reasonable, respectful death, proportionate to its actual veracity.
I'm happy we got Tom Keene in Florida government because I'm pretty sure shit's fucking crazy up there right now. But let's talk about the hemp bills. Alex, I actually would like to put my time towards you because you have read the bills much more. You've texted me all your frustrations, and I think you're very passionate about this subject. So I think you should just get started here. What was the 2 milligram thing? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so they tried this last year. I got to say, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Instagram pages of Blacklist. It's kind of like cannabis culture social media, but I went viral last year on it when Senator Trusman, I believe is his name, asked Colleen Burton when presenting the bill, have you spoken to any hemp food establishments? And her reply was no. And yet somehow the bill still gets passed all the way through last year until the very last step. Will Robinson goes on a press conference and says the cap limits are OUT, out. And that is a direct quote. Mm-hmm. What changed from last year to this year? Well, what's a little bit different this year is that, one, you have the recreational petition in the Supreme Court. Two, you have what I believe is the first time ever a True Leave lobbyist attached to a bill here in the Florida government. 2 True Leave lobbyists coming out to support the hemp ban, and 3 FDAX lobbyists coming out to support the hemp ban. I see it as a multifaceted attack. If they're able to cut the legs out from under hemp and pass recreational simultaneously, Kim Rivers will have the biggest monopoly since Henry frickin' Ford. Okay.
Now let's just notice for a fact, for our, as far as background for some of our listeners are concerned, the Farm Act of 2018 actually did open up the market for hemp. Previous to that, it had to be a product that it came in for in foreign nation and not made it had any processing here in the United States, things of that sort. And now it was saying that hemp is no longer a Schedule I medication. It is just hemp, the plant, as it was, and therefore should be treated as a plant.
An agricultural product.
As an agricultural product, which allows it to become animal feed again and can be put into food products and be part of the food chain is concerned. And so all of a sudden, what was once illegal is now technically legal, although people are saying it's a loophole and not an actual physical legality. But the fact is, they created the federal law first, not the state law. That should supersede all state laws. But each state had to have their own particular set of rules and regulations to follow that law, which we did, and it did allow everybody to have access to being able to become a hemp farmer, a hemp producer, and of course a hemp seller.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, what I find interesting is the USDA has been revoking certain hemp licenses for businesses that also duly retain state licenses for marijuana. So the fact that True Leave is lobbying for this bill to shut down its competition, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean that they want to sell hemp products. It just means that they want to put small businesses out. Because they're not going to be able to sell hemp products in the grand scheme. And it really does bug me a bit that they're doing this. And for those folks at home who don't believe me, here's the receipts. Because here on the rotation, we don't say anything that could put us at risk. We have receipts. Clearly, you can see here, truly lobbyists advocating for this bill, which will put people like Carlos and Alex's businesses at risk, if not possibly cause them to go out of business.
Question. It's like, because we went through this whole thing last year and we had to be like, and we're very careful on this show. Like we try, we're cool and we're against the establishment and everything like that. But like,
yeah,
we don't want to get sued or anything like that. So we're very careful on this show. This is public knowledge. It's out there for everybody to see. Truly, literally paid money to make sure that the hemp industry would be destroyed,
and not just in this state.
Yeah.
and not just in this state. Gary, just to kind of recap for the audience a little bit, like you said, the hemp industry was created in 2018. The way that they really did that was specify what is marijuana.
Hey, Nikki Fried's watching.
Marijuana is cannabis that's above 0.3 delta 9 THC. That one cannabinoid specifically is what marijuana is. De facto, the 99 other cannabinoids are hemp products. Okay, so by the state of Florida trying to ban certain cannabinoids, delta 8, delta 10, HHC, THCP, THCV, it's almost like they're ignorant to the fact that there's still over 95 other cannabinoids that us hemp companies could move to. And it seems counterintuitive to push the industry to start selling products that are less known than the ones currently on the market, which have been proven safe time and time again. If they were to ban these cannabinoids, it ain't going to put us out of business. We're just going to have to transition to a new cannabinoid. There's over 100 to choose from. The problem is we're having to choose from cannabinoids that are less known, where there's less studies, where there's less customer experiences. And ultimately that puts people at risk. Okay, but it's quite a shame that we're having to deal with an oligarchy. Quite simply, if there's only 13 people that are allowed to own, control, cultivate, sell, product manufacture, distribute, and retail one set of products in an entire industry, and it's only held between 13 people, that's an oligarchy. Whereas hemp is the open and free market. Any small business owner can get invested into the Florida cannabis hemp industry. It doesn't cause any special requirements, no sort of owning a nursery for over 30 years. You know, the reason why Kim Rivers' husband's currently in jail.
Oh, let me ask you a quick question, because as I mentioned before, normally federal law supersedes all state laws, and our state laws had to be approved with the USDA and all that bit, and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and Steve Hall and that whole group, and of course Nikki, did a fantastic job in crafting all the rules and regulations and got them approved. And now they're going to try to change them. Is that basically the situation? Can they do it? Does it have to be approved first, even after it's voted on? Or is it just dead in the water because it's not?
Even if it passes, it's immediately going to be challenged in court. I've talked to 3 different attorneys that already have something drafted up in the worst case scenario that this gets passed. And look at what happened in Texas. They tried this exact same bill in Texas and it passed. And then a company called Hometown Heroes got some great lawyers, challenged it in court, and won. The problem is that's going to put all of these hemp establishments, over 10,000 small business owners, in a state of purgatory for X amount of months until we get clarification. I feel bad for those small business owners that just took out $100,000 on a loan to go open up a small business because they believe in holistic medicine and selling these hemp-derived cannabinoids. And then all of a sudden their lives are uprooted and turned upside down. And the bank's going to be calling them trying to make payments. And they've just built out an entire store that's now considered an illegal retail establishment. It's asinine.
Now, a lot of people automatically had access to USDA loans through the Farm Act and through our rules and regulations. Are those going to be challenged now as well?
I have zero idea on that. I right now, this bill has put the entire industry in a giant gray zone. No one knows what's up or down. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen to those USDA hemp loans. I can tell you that hemp is Florida's 4th largest agricultural commodity right now. Yeah. But again, which we were talking about before the show, this is a multifaceted attack. Yes, it's coming from True Leaf. They've got registered lobbyists on the bill. It's obvious. It's in paper. But let me give you an example. I have a retail store in Tallahassee. That's Leon County. I get an FDAX inspector in my store once a month. And I do not exaggerate that. I literally get inspected once a month. Now, I just opened up another wholesale and retail store in Fort Lauderdale. Part of my job is going from hemp shop to hemp shop to hemp shop. And I like to ask, when's the last time you've been inspected? And their reply is, oh, I got inspected when I originally got my hemp permit about 2 or 3 years ago. Okay, so what there is a huge shortage of FDAX inspectors. The people who go into Applebee's, into Walmart, and to protect people from salmonella are now in charge of going into the smoke shops and the convenience stores and the hemp shops to make sure that their cannabis products are compliant. They can't do it. The job is overwhelming. They have no hope, especially in a highly density populated area of South Florida. So in my opinion, because there is FDAX lobbyists on this bill, I see it as a direct message from Wilton Simpson saying, look, we don't want to regulate this. We want no control of this. We're overwhelmed. Let's ban it. This isn't my problem anymore.
So hold on. That's scary. Let me understand this, Alex, from what you just said. So instead of FDAX inspectors going into Walmart and making sure they're not repackaging their red meat and injecting it with methane to keep it red, carbon dioxide to keep it red, they're messing with you. They're messing with people like Carlos.
Inspectors. Yes. And
this is the scariest thing, though. Like, you guys have to understand. Excuse me, Alex. The second biggest contributor to this bill regulates this industry. Like, that in itself has me thinking that I should get out of this industry here in Florida, because I mean, what's going to happen if the bills don't pass? This guy's just going to come after us all anyways. He did it for the child safety packaging.
If he has enough money for inspectors. I mean, actually, Wilton Simpson has the same problem, although slightly different, than what Nikki had when she was in charge of the organization, and that is they didn't get the money,
correct,
to pay for the inspectors, and that means that they didn't have enough money to inspect all the regular crops as well.
Gary, this presents a major issue for me, because you're telling me that this government doesn't have the money to inspect our food supply, all of the hemp products accurately, but they got money to go into classrooms to see if teachers are preaching woke ideology. What the frack is that?
Well, they have the money. They just are putting it in the wrong place, right? That's the key. Yeah. So I would just encourage everybody who listens to this, and we had this discussion before, is that some of this discussion gets so esoteric and you're thinking, Uncle, I've had enough. I just want to, I don't want to hear anymore. You have to get engaged. You have to let your legislators know. You have to put pressure on them so that they are voting to make sure that the money does get allocated in the correct place. And so I think that's the lesson that I'm taking from this show, from this group right now, is that we have to make sure that the voters are heard, we're being held accountable, and we're putting the money where it really needs to go.
And that's a great point, Tom. Alex, last year we saw an incredible movement from the industry as a whole. I mean, we had our little skirmishes or whatnot, but it seemed to be this incredible coming together of the industry where everybody was playing their part. We were getting media attention. We were getting packed rooms up in Tallahassee for these workshops and committees. What do you think is going on this year? Do you think we're going to have that momentum? Do you think we're going to be able to get the industry together and really?
Well, you got to remember the state of the industry. So after the bill last year, if you take politics aside and just look at the industry itself, there were a lot of hemp food establishments that closed, and the reason why is oversaturation. All these Californian companies are moving to Florida due to their hemp laws, and the market gets super saturated. So you get a lot of passionate, smaller business owners going out of business. So the amount of representation we're going to have on Tuesday may not be the size that it was last year, just due to the overall market and how it's going now. I mean, if you look at the square acreage of hemp planted in the state of Florida or even across the country, it's way down. It's a fraction of what it was in 2020. Okay, so I don't know if we'll have the same packed house, but I do know that the rich have got richer and the poor have got poorer. So who we currently have lobbying against this hemp bill has accumulated quite a lot of wealth and may have a better impact rather than 30 very vocal small business owners. Now it's starting to get more of a professional edge, a more sophisticated, wealthier kind of edge, smaller, but more successful, so to
Now,
say.
one thing that the commerce that hemp has is an interstate market that obviously we can't have with MMTCs. So the question is, are some of the crowd coming in? Are they going to be out of state providers of the product? And is out of state product just as regulated as product that was grown and packaged in this state?
Not at all. Okay, so not at all. So let's take a very controversial issue. For those in the industry, they'll know what I mean by this. THCA, okay? For federal law, put it like this. If I'm in Florida, I could buy THCA flower, which is pretty much identical to just regular cannabis that's sold at True Leaf, okay? But according to federal law, I can buy THCA flower from any state, ship it into Florida, store it, and then wholesale it out of state, no problem. But the moment I buy THCA flower from out of state, bring it into Florida, then sell it to a retail store and they retail it in the state of Florida, that's not allowed. That's against Florida law. So when it comes to interstate commerce, if this bill passes, there's nothing stopping anyone from going to a website and buying a Delta 8 product or a Delta 10 product. They can't stop interstate commerce, okay? So if the bill passes, e-commerce is going to boom because these brick and mortars are going to close and they can't stop an individual from consuming or purchasing this from online because it goes by interstate commerce. My question is, if this bill passes and I can't retail Delta 8 and I've got people that come into my hemp food establishments, do I just direct them to purchase off of my website and then, oh, look at that, your package has just been shipped to my store at this very moment, here you go, and go on your way? That's interstate commerce. If they're purchasing off my website, they're from another state, say they want it shipped to another state, I'll still be able to sell Delta 8, but I can't retail it at a brick and mortar retail location? It makes no sense. It's asinine.
I mean, I've never been a big fan of buying products off the internet. I prefer to have a one-on-one conversation with the salesperson so I know what the hell I'm getting. I still can't imagine anybody buying shoes on the internet. How do you know if it fits? Damn it!
I still went into the Apple store to buy an AirTag. I could have bought it online, but I wanted that experience of seeing it, looking at it, you know. It's just the way it is. I mean, if anything, cannabis is one of those things where you want to see it, you want to smell it, you want to look at it before you buy it, you know?
And you want to be educated on it. All these products are super different. I mean, there's over 100 cannabinoids. You go on the internet and try and research just one of them, you're going to get lost in a rabbit hole. You got to have that in-person interaction and education. It's crucial for cannabis. I mean, 70% of what me and Carlos do is simply educate. The other 30% is we actually provide access to these products.
I wish that the Department of Health and the Department of Agriculture would create a bigger threshold of training for these people that work in these licensed retail establishments that are selling medical marijuana. Because it seems to me people like you and Carlos actually know what you're doing when you're selling these products versus what people are experiencing when they walk into these MMTCs. Because Gary said it time and time again, they're just trying to give them the most potent product they can rather than the product that's most beneficial.
You know, that's a very.
They have no concept as to what is the most common.
That leads me actually to another question that I want to ask Alex. Delta 8 THC, right? There's a lot of controversy on whether or not it's harmful. I've gotten reviews on my store that of people that have not even walked in through the door that heard that I sell Delta 8 THC saying that I'm hurting people. The process for a Delta 8, right? Can you explain the process, whether or not it's safe, right?
All right, what's the difference between Delta 9 marijuana and the difference between Delta 8 is simply one carbon atom connection. That's it.
It's so this is where Gary, like, I can feel him wanting to jump up and say something. I feel him right now.
That's just the caffeine vibe.
The controversy is the process, correct? Like the process of converting CBD into Delta 8, right? Dangerous isomers, blah blah blah, acid.
Residual solvents.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why we're required by the state to do lab reports. Why we pay $220 for every single product we manufacture to go get it certified at a lab that it doesn't have residual solvents or heavy metals or pesticides. When I hear politicians say this is an unregulated market, what the hell have they been doing for the last 4 years and all these? Why am I following the rules? If it's unregulated, why have I been following these rules this whole time? I wanted to jump on a thought that Mr. Kano brought up. I wish that there was some training given to these MMTCs. Here's why they don't have to do that. It's an oligarchy. There's no competition. They don't have to have an educated staff. Where else are you going to go? Whereas me and Carlos, we're in the open and free market. There's competition everywhere around us. We have to be knowledgeable to set us aside from the rest. That's just what the open and fair market gets you. If you got an oligarchy, you don't care what your staff knows. Where else are your customers going to go?
Now, Tom, I got to ask you a quick question. I know, and you may not be able to answer this. I mean, you may actually know the answer, but not be able to answer this. But when you got to Tallahassee, did someone take you aside, drag you into the bubble, and say, "Here's what we have to tell you about cannabis"?
Oh, no,
That may not be an expert.
No, absolutely have not heard that. And as a matter of fact, just the opposite. I think part of the thing that I love about this discussion is that Suncoast NORML came out and endorsed me up front. So everybody knows that you were one of the first folks there. Everybody should know, how I feel on this, and nobody's taken me aside in the bubble to say, don't talk about this. This should be, as we talked about this before, this should be a bipartisan coalition that supports both medical marijuana and potentially adult use marijuana.
And there are plenty of lobbyists from both sides of the aisle
absolutely
that do push these things. But of course, lobbyists do the bidding of their employers.
Yeah. Now, I have not had a chance to talk to any cannabis lobbyists yet, but I'm sure that a few will find my.
You might want to check to see if there's any garlic on the outside of your door, just to see if possibly it's keeping all of them.
My door's open, so to everybody, pro and con, if you will, because I have to be educated. You all are the experts on this. I come to the show to learn the facts, if you will. So appreciate
Tom, we've actually got a blow up in the chat right now. They're very interested to see what you're going to do for medical marijuana homegrow rights. I believe Gary may have some info on a homegrow bill.
Yeah, but you don't want me to talk about it yet.
Well, let me just say two things. One is that as a brand new member coming in the middle of session, I don't have the opportunity to file any bills. So I can't propose any bills. If there is a bill that's in play right now already, I can co-sponsor that bill. And I don't think that there is one for homegrow right now, but I may be wrong about that. But if there is, I would be happy to jump on board on that one. Absolutely.
I actually wrote a Wilton Simpson friendly bill. I wrote it in the context of what would make Wilton Simpson happy, knowing that he was going to be the Commissioner of Agriculture, and at the time was also Senate President, and trying to figure out how I can move this forward. And I didn't move the man. I mean, maybe if I had put the cannabis in eggs, it would have been different. Kind of like those little German things with the chocolate with the toy inside. Anyways, wouldn't you like to have toys we have with cannabis on the inside? And I don't think they'd sell it at Walmart.
Oh, I think that would be attractive to children,
So I want to say, Tom, thank you for, being a Suncoast NORML member. Number one, I mean, very few people actually step up to the plate. They'll say, oh, yeah, I support this, support that. But you took the time to become a member of this chapter to support what we do. And you've been very open with us and wanted to work with us as far as legislation goes. And you've been definitely someone whose integrity has been without reproach. So when I see trolls in the social media comments, trying to insinuate that you're with the other side, I just want to tell them, take it like this, guys. Tom Keene integrity is above reproach. He's a good guy. He doesn't take money from True Leave. He's a NORML member. NORML is not a shield for the cannabis industry, because if you can go online to National NORML's finances, you can see we don't take money. We're struggling right now. We're a membership-based organization that has always wanted to protect the civil rights of the regular person who's affected by cannabis prohibition. And if you're blocked for some reason on social media from commenting on a NORML website, maybe you should check what you're saying and how you're saying it, because there are community rules of speech in social media. So other than that, go ahead and take a long walk off a short bridge.
And I should just tell folks that during my last Sativation session, I came up with a new motto for NORML. And now just put it out there, see what you think. We are normal. We can't say the same about you.
I love it. I love it. Well, Tom, I know you're a very busy man. We appreciate you joining us this Sunday morning. We're going to keep the conversation going with Alex and head off to the news. But you got essentially a re-election coming up this November. So tell folks how they can support you and keep you there in the House so that we can have a Suncoast NORML member in the State House.
Yes, there is no rest for the wary candidate.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I'm up in Tallahassee again this afternoon. I go back up. While we're in session, we don't take contributions or solicit donations, so I can't do that right now. I haven't filed for re-election yet. More to come on that. I think my first few weeks I need to be really focused on learning the process and making sure that we're doing the job that people elected me to do right now. And when the session's over, I'll come out with a big announcement. But I really appreciate y'all having the opportunity to come on tonight or this afternoon. And to be honest, I learn something new every time I come on. So thanks again.
That's by design.
Thank you, Tom. We appreciate you.
All right, guys.
Godspeed.
Also, best mustache in Tallahassee.
Best mustache indeed.
Thank you.
It's an aerospace mustache. Can you tell us? It looks like a stealth bomber. Did you notice it?
See you guys. Bye-bye.
See you, Tom. Well, folks, as we're talking about hemp, right? The definition of hemp is 0.3% THC. What I found ironic is that there was a Department of Justice researcher just this week who cited that 0.3% is essentially not scientifically accurate, and is cited from a 1950s study that they published in the 70s
in Canada.
Yeah. So all in all, if it's 0.35, if it's 0.4, one of the things he said was if you were to try and get high off of hemp, you'd have to smoke a joint as long as a telephone pole.
Now, does the 0.3% include the amount of THCA in the flower?
Not federally.
Okay, and that makes a big difference. For folks who don't know what THCA stands for, the A stands for acid. It is the acid form of the THC.
Stands for awesome.
Which actually has no euphoric component to it until you heat it, and then all of a sudden it loses that carbon and becomes a decarb. It no longer is the acid form, and it becomes delta 9 THC, which means if you have THCA flower, that's what is prominently in the raw flower. But once you heat it, there is a chemical reaction right inside your blunt.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because Gary, when people walk into dispensaries, anywhere across the country, and they see stuff that's 40% THC, the vast majority of that is not THC, it's THCA. They're adding THC and THCA to get you this combined 40% THC bud that you might be purchasing.
Well, I saw a California product not too long ago, and it was these little pre-rolls that also had diamonds and keef on them and all that bit, and it said on the back 42% THCA. And I said, well, that's very nice to know, but what the hell does that mean?
Yes.
I mean, if you consider the people who talk about whether the amount of THC is really what is most important in cannabis, by the way, it's not, but it's a great sales tool.
It is. I think the reason why you're seeing this hemp bill passed or being proposed here in Florida is a direct effect of the Florida hemp industry proliferating the abundance of THCA throughout the state. It's kind of a relatively new phenomenon. Last year is all about Delta 8 and Delta 9. Well, all of a sudden, the industry transitioned real hard and started selling THCA, which is legal federally. And I guarantee you, if you go to any smoke shop near you right now, you're going to find THCA flower. What caused this bill to be proposed and why True Leaf is directly on it? If you go to True Leaf and buy flower, it's THCA flower. Okay, so these smoke shops are essentially selling the exact same product, compliant under federal law, and I think that has exacerbated the willingness to just outlaw hemp entirely.
And Alex, let's pause on that. The reason these MMTCs are selling THCA flower is because the demand, they're not curing it long enough for those THC levels to convert THCA to THC. So they're just moving it off the shelf, and like you said, yeah, it's THCA flower. They're not curing it so you can have it decarboxylate.
Exactly, it's mass production.
And let's look at a historical aspect of it. Hemp did not come to this country as a euphoric, period. It came as an industrial product that the English just absolutely loved so much that they're willing to fight an entire war over it. And yet, when we look at the hemp market right now, there's a 22-foot plant out there. They're only using the top foot, and the rest of it lies on the ground and rots and isn't given use. Whereas those sugar leaves should be going into the feed. And the cane especially has so many industrial products that are available to it. And yet this law will not only knock out the entire production in regards to the CBD products, THCA, et cetera, that will also affect the possibility of growing that industrial market, which is way, way behind.
Way behind. I mean, if I were to grow 100,000 pounds of hemp for fiber in Florida, you tell me where I take it to get processed. It does not exist. I've got nowhere to go with it. So the market has gone to where it's lower weight, higher cost. In other words, cannabinoids. That's where the money's at. And I don't know where we're going to be in 6 months from now. I imagine because this bill has the support of FDACS, the people that regulates us, because it has the support of Truly while they simultaneously are pushing recreational, that we're going to be in a very different world in the hemp industry in 6 months from now. And predominantly our only defense is the courts, because this state bill, if passed, is going to contradict federal law. Our rules already currently contradict federal law. But this is going to probably upset a couple people, but there's no such thing as just regular CBD hemp flower that's below 0.3. It does not exist, period. So since 2018, anyone selling CBD hemp flower, it's probably at 0.4, 0.5, 0.7. It ain't ever been below 0.3 unless you're doing a CBG cultivar. Okay, so the arbitrary law, which you brought up of the 0.3, it's not science. It's not rooted in science. It's not based in science. It's just a whimsical someone made in the 50s that got put into law in the 70s and reinterpreted in 2018. What's going to happen if this bill passes is the same naivety that happened in 2018 when they decided marijuana is just Delta-9 THC, not fully comprehending that cannabis has over 100 cannabinoids. Okay, so they're going to ban 4 more this year. What's the hemp industry going to do? It's obvious. They're just going to transition to another cannabinoid. It may take some time. It's going to take some changing of packaging and creative packaging strategies. I'm already on top of it for our manufacturing company. You know how condoms come in a strip and there's 10 of them and each condom is a separate package? That's how your gummies are going to come.
I would like to see blunts actually come in a roll like that.
That's how your
unroll, tear one off, that'd be nice.
That's where the market's already moving if this bill is passed. And most are assuming it is going to pass just because it has the support of the people that regulate us. But it's got the support of the people that regulate us because they're way underfunded and couldn't regulate us if they wanted to. I mean, you should see South Florida. It is like the wild, wild west back in 2017 and 2018. They don't ever get inspections.
Well, you talk about CBD. I guess a lot of it has to do with this as a question of sampling. I mean, if you grow your hemp in a very temperate climate, say northern England, where you usually don't get any higher temperatures than like 65, 70, even during the summer sometimes, you will have a lot less THC in that flower. And if you actually sample it when it's cool out and send it in a cool packaging, that is a greater chance of it being less than 0.3 THC. However, if you are, say, for instance, in Florida where it's kind of warm out, and you take a sample and you mail it to them, and they're asking for you to mail it, correct? Or is it go by courier?
They have an inspector that goes out and collects the sample.
Okay. And if he collects it, say, for instance, on a hot day, 85 degrees, 90 degrees, etc., chances are you're going to get a lot hotter flower than during temperate times.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you get it, the flower just started forming and you get it tested, by the time they harvest it, it's decarbonolaxated, it's been sitting on a shelf for 2 months, and you test it again, that is going to be a completely different lab report than the pre-harvest test they're currently doing.
Which
is why I said there's no such thing as below
plenty
point.
of times, man. But like I've been inspected maybe 3 times for my flower, and I remember they purchased quite a large amount of it. I was really excited at the time. Like they purchased like an ounce to get one sample, and that, I mean, that's awesome. You can pay me for an ounce if you want to test it, but
I guarantee you the entire ounce did not go towards testing. But that's
well, what are the processes that they have after they collect the sample? Does it go into the trunk of, my inspector's car in Florida? Like, and that of course is going to make sure that it's decarboxylated.
Or does it get appropriately encased with lime?
That's a good point.
To destroy a product.
That's a good point, Carlos. How hot is a trunk in Florida on a 90-degree day? Do the temperatures in that trunk reach enough to decarboxylate your butt?
Yeah.
Having spent plenty of time in trunks of cars, I can tell you that. Well, I'm not going to do that.
What happens when it gets to the office? They probably stick it in like a priority mail fucking envelope and send it to a lab. And
I imagine it's put in a queue because there's only about 3 licensed labs that FTAX uses in Florida. I'm sure that may be wrong, but I don't believe it's more than 3. And if you're going to try and test all of these hemp food establishments products, that queue is probably 6 months long. So by the time your product gets tested, I highly doubt it's what the COA originally was.
Yeah.
Where's the lab? Wow. The lab is in Tallahassee, off of Bald Cypress Road, right?
It is. It's in Tallahassee.
And you happen to have a store which happens to be in Tallahassee.
And that's why I see an inspector once a month.
And that's why the TPD is always coming by for lunch, right?
Actually, TPD Tallahassee Police Department has given us no problems. They've actually coming in, talked to us. We have great experience with law enforcement down in South Florida as well. A lot of them say, man, I would use these products if I could. I have no problem with you selling it. I have no problem with anyone using it. I don't even care if you smoke it outside. But
you hear that, Chad? I'm sorry, Sheriff.
We're the same over here. We actually had a few situations. Like there was an informal, like when hemp was first becoming popular, 2018, 2019, there was like an informal thing that the police department did where they were like, if you want to learn about this hemp stuff, go over there to Chillum on 7th Avenue and they'll tell you all about it. And we had quite a few cops. Like it was unsettling sometimes seeing guys like that were like walking the beat out here on a Friday night with like their vests on, and they're like, "Hey, all right, my boss told me to come in here and see about this hemp stuff. I hear it's pretty cool."
But they didn't take any of your parking tickets away, did they?
No. They still take forever to show up too when you call them.
Law enforcement doesn't want to have to deal with cannabis anymore. I mean, that's pure fact. They just do not want to have to deal with it. They don't want to arrest anyone for it. If you're driving and you get pulled over and you've just purchased THCA flower at a hemp store, they're just going to confiscate it from you and send you on your way. They're not trying to arrest anyone for cannabis.
But you, like many companies, use the U.S. mail to go ahead and send out product that is purchased over the internet.
USPS and UPS, depending on if it's wholesale or retail.
And
Alex, I do want to real quick just pause right there because you did say about getting pulled over. Keep your original packaging with you, because if you can't prove that was a illegal hemp product you bought, depending on a number of other mitigating factors, we all know that policing in this country is broken, and if you don't have the complexion for the protection or the privilege to get you out of that, you might be in deep shit.
Now, there was an article I just saw in the paper the other day. I thought the headline was so stupid. It drew my attention. It says, man with suspended license pulled over, admits to smoking cannabis prior to his arrest. I was like, oh my goodness, that is such a mixed up situation. They pull him over for a suspended license. I would guess that his tags in the back were not up to date. But they say after that, the next biggest thing was the fact that he had cannabis. Read into the article. He has a number of cartridges in his car in a metal canister that says Fluent on it. That has his name on it and his doctor's name on it. And he happened to have ashes on his lap.
He's operating heavy machinery, you know?
Yeah.
And he's operating heavy machinery. And so they gave him a DWI. And I believe the cannabis charge still stuck because of the fact that they caught him not only with a suspended license, but also imbibing while driving.
Well,
it's not as clean as it looks.
No, well, Gary, in the state of Virginia, when they passed their adult use laws, they removed the smell of cannabis as probable cause for a search. They also did it here in Maryland. And in Maryland this session, there is a number of law enforcement agencies looking to roll that back. I actually had a conversation with the new sheriff of Baltimore County, and he actually is not in favor of rolling it back. His chief of staff's response to me was, well, it just seems like a reason to arrest more people again. And so you have to understand is that as we strike down prohibition in the various states, the mission is never accomplished. There is always, the need to be on alert for the pushback. And then even if we don't have pushback, as you see industry players pop up, the nature of industry is that competition is not good for some people's bottom line. They don't believe in the American propaganda of free market capitalism. It's about, how much money can I make, and screw you, let me get paid. And that's pretty much why you have $50 million of lobbying money being spent from MTCs in the state to corner the adult use market, to put hemp businesses, out of competition. And so, we have a lot of work to do with our mission. I see some of the trolls in the chat, saying that why aren't we prioritizing home grow rights? Gary, you've written a bill, as you said, that you believe we could get through the Florida legislature for home grow. Tell the folks again a little bit about your idea and how we could possibly get the Republican Party in Florida to stomach passing home grow. Tell us about the bill that you've written again.
Okay. It's called a development of a new license, a patient designated cultivation center. What that basically means is that you have folks who get a container that has everything inside of it to be able to grow cannabis, has the hydroponics, has the air conditioning, you have access to all the proper insecticides, all the proper nutrients for you to be able to have your own section in that cannabis in that container to grow your own product. Have the correct cultivar that is specific for your needs, etc. And you can either grow it on your own, and you can pay them as part of a co-op, or you can go through sweat equity and do everything yourself, that kind of situation. But that would allow you to have a type of home grow that not only is in of high quality, of medicinal quality, dangerous in regards to insecticides is concerned, but also one of the biggest concerns of Tallahassee is the fact that they are worried about dispersion of your product after you grow it. And this way, they will have a concept as to how many plants you grew and how much you harvested. And so they know, like everybody, like the hemp growers, they know exactly how much harvest you're actually putting out. And so therefore, that they don't have that problem with worrying about, are you giving out samples to the kids walking down home from school, that kind of situation. So that is a home grow bill that is doable, that is amenable to people who are interested in agricultural entrepreneurship. It could also be considered a equity program as well, a social equity program, because people can get into this business and make some money that normally can't get into the business right now.
The only other alternative is what Wise Florida and Mariah wanted to push out was a constitutional amendment. But the fact is that, she had to withdraw that because to put a constitutional amendment on the Florida ballot takes anywhere between $2 to $4 million. And that is because of just the petition drive alone. at 1 million petitions at 10 cents a petition. The amount of infrastructure you need to either pay petitioners or put together a field team to collect 1 million petitions within a year's time. And of course, the amount of marketing that you're going to need to create the awareness and to fight against people like the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Disney World, and the existing MMTC market. So, for those folks out there who are saying, why isn't NORML doing more for home grow? We're looking to operate within the bounds of the system that we have. If you think National NORML is coming around to drop $4 million to save us here in Florida, it's not going to happen. Both myself and Nikki Freed sit on the board of National NORML. We can tell you that no one is coming to save us. We ourselves, as a chapter, we ourselves as the people, have to engage the political system to make real change. And our options are, we can either try to raise a whole bunch of money, we can bitch about the system, or we can do something, roll up our sleeves and get people like Tom Keene elected and continue to get more people elected that are going to be allies for us in office, which goes to say, I also want to give a shout out to one of our former allies who's running for state Senate, Carlos Guillermo Smith. Hopefully we can pick up another Senate seat, from him this fall. The fact is that we also don't necessarily want to have to slate it towards Democrats. I would love if there were more pro-pot Republicans. The Jeff Brandises don't exist anymore in the Florida legislature. There are very few moderate GOPers that get the idea of civil liberties, that get the idea of free market economics, that are not already been bought by the major players in Florida who happen to own both sides of the aisle in a lot of ways. And so that really bugs us as we see folks always saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's like no one's coming to save us. We have to do this as a collective, as the people of Florida, just like how we passed medical marijuana as people of Florida. But what it took was someone like John Morgan, who had the cash to infuse it into a campaign. Because most of us remember people united for medical marijuana in 2009 and 2010, trying to get signatures to get on the ballot. It didn't go anywhere. But when John Morgan came along and dropped a few $1 million in the campaign, not only did they get on the ballot 2014, they were this close to getting it passed. And
of course, in a game of inches, the legislature is always willing to give an inch. And what they did this last session, again, as they've done before, is to try to put through a bill that will make it so you have to have 66.67% of the vote in order for it to pass the constitutional amendment, or exactly a 2/3 majority. And there's very few laws that actually break that.
Yeah, I mean, in most states, a majority of voters have passed things. In Florida, it's 60%. Now they want to up it up to a supermajority because direct democracy embarrasses a legislature that doesn't do their job. And in no others, we have over 100 amendments to the 1968 Constitution. That just goes to show over 100 times since 1968, the Florida legislatures failed to do their job, and the voters had to do it for them. And that is why they're cracking down on this. You see states like Ohio, where they're passing things like 58%, 55%. And you think if that was Florida, it would never happen. So, you have to be thankful in a lot of ways, for the fact that we even have 60%, which is a damn shame. It used to be a simple majority. Let's stop the Florida legislature from taking away direct democracy from the voters. I mean, I know our colleagues in North Carolina, South Carolina, they don't have direct democracy at all. They don't even have the option to put things on the ballot. So we are a little bit lucky in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I mean, damn, millions of dollars just for us to make the politicians do their job and do right by the people. That hurts.
Well, here's your first step to try to make things right as far as state of Florida is concerned. Alec, what is the number of the bill that is going to be seen at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 23rd in Tallahassee?
Senate Bill 1698. It's sponsored by Colleen Burton. And then you've got House Bill 1613, led by Tommy Gregory, which is interesting because last year when they tried the same bill, the House side was led by Will Robinson. I don't know why they switched it up and chose Tommy Gregory to be the sponsor of this bill. I imagine it's because of all the outrage that happened at the committee hearings. And Will Robinson said, I don't want any part of this.
You don't want that smoke.
I think Will Robinson wanted to be a part of it because he was at the Tampa General Hospital thing that they did. I think because he was swayed to take out THC was the reason why he's not on it this year.
Well, you know, Tommy, you got to look. You got a Polk County senator and a House member from Manatee County. Those are two deep red districts that, pretty much, regardless of how bad they screw up, their constituents probably aren't going to vote them out. You know, and then that's the issue. Is like, how many folks in their district are operating hemp businesses that can influence them versus how many MMTCs are in their district and how many other, things like, the prison industrial complex are in these people's districts that are affecting how they vote.
Well, politics does play a major part in the way legislature moves in the state of Florida. I mean, they actually have a new bill right now which says they can ban flags in public buildings, including schools and things of that sort, and that means to ban the gay pride flag, and that kind of thing. To try to ban a BLM flag or whatever. I don't know if they would go as far as allowing the banning of the Confederate flag, but possibility. The fact is, it's definitely against the First Amendment, and you always say, I might not agree with you, but you have the right to say it, kind of situation. That's what America was built on, not on you have to agree with me in order for your opinion to be actually put out there in the open. But we have that situation in Tallahassee all the time, and if the politics of the situation are skewed, then you'll find the legislation skewed. Wilton Simpson, God bless the man, love his hairline. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. He's a neighbor. I live in Ridge Manor. He lives in Trilby, so I gotta step lightly. Also, I eat eggs, but the fact is that he is going to be running for governor, along with Matt Gaetz and a bunch of other people. And so you will see him doing things that will promote his popularity within that base. And so I would venture to say a lot of things that he's doing, that the Department of Agriculture is doing, is trying to gather up that base to go behind him and move things forward. So we have to be careful. But one of the beauties of our committee system right here is that it allows the people of the state of Florida to go up there and talk to the legislators. And again, the 23rd at 1:00, I forget the building, but it's I think it's in the Senate building.
Senate building, it's in room 301 at 1:00.
Room 301, the lead office, or whatever, the big one. Anyways, on the third floor, you can
get there early so you can sign up to testify.
You can sign up online, and you can also sign up by paper as you get there. But we need as many people as possible who have experience and who have a valid opinion to go up there and tell them what's what. Educate to legislate. Is that right, Alec?
I tell Carlos this every year because we've been doing it for about 5, 6, 7 years straight now. And I hate to say it, but it's just how I feel. It's important. That's why I'm driving 9 hours to go to the committee hearing and talk. But afterwards, you will think to yourself, did I just participate in a farce? Because the decision is made before that committee hearing even happens. Like what you mentioned earlier, Senator Rousseau last year asked Colleen Burton, did you speak to any hemp food establishment before trying to ban most of the hemp products? Her answer was blunt, no. Okay, so if you look up the definition of malpractice and negligence is a part of it, and incorporating a political official, that's malpractice. You just passed the bill knowing the person presenting it didn't speak to anyone in the industry about it, doesn't know anything about the industry, admitted to it, and still passed it along anyways. When you go there, it's important. For me, it's important because it's my pride. And it's something that I don't want to look back years from now and think that was my last opportunity. But the moment you finish talking and you sit down, you'll realize their decision was made before this committee hearing started. Last year was 100 people in the building. 99 of them were against the bill. They passed it along every step of the way anyways, But you don't want to look back and think I had an opportunity at least to participate in the dog and pony show. I can promise you, though, this dog and pony show will be very entertaining on Tuesday.
You should mention that when you're talking to the legislature, you're not just talking to the legislature. You're all talking to everybody else who's in that room, everybody else who watches the Florida channel, and if the media is there, everybody else in the state and
But-
possibly in the country has access to your opinion once you're out there in public.
But to what Alex was saying, if you go up there and you talk to these legislators, I remember a lot of even the ones that wanted to help you. You know what I mean? Like what's that lady from Broward? That blonde lady from Broward? That was like,
Castle.
listen, Castle. I remember her basically being like, "Listen, it's gonna pass. All right, here's what we can do, but this is just gonna pass. Like it's just has to." So I mean, it's true. Like you they don't like to talk about it straight up, but there's crony capitalism going on. It's set to pass. You can tell because there's one in the Senate, one in the House that are exactly
And
alike.
the people that regulate us are lobbying for it, So whatever we say, no matter how scientific or how credible or how accurate, is now discredited because the people who regulate us are saying we want this bill passed.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that Tampa General Hospital press conference that they did, but that was a smart play to get into the media before doing all this. They now have the ability to go back and say, listen, Tampa General Hospital has a big issue with this. Okay. And the lady that runs Tampa General Hospital even said that kids could die.
No. See, and I spoke to an ER doctor about this over the holiday break, just so happens to be a member of my family. And he said, what they do when a kid comes in high? They let him sleep it off. They give him some juice and some cookies, and they discharge him and send him home.
Speaking of juice,
and Arizona iced tea, and let him take a nap.
Speaking of juice, what is y'all's opinion of Sunny D? Wouldn't you consider Sunny D to be a child's drink? Right? Well, Sunny D has an alcohol now.
This is true.
Mountain Dew has an alcohol. Look at all those novel shapes and colors that's on their packaging. You don't think kids? I mean, if you close your eyes and you just imagine all of the people who have been affected from alcoholism, who have died from alcohol, who have been hit by a drunk driver, who have crashed themselves while driving drunk. Now you close your eyes and think about all the people that have died from cannabis.
Yeah, and what you have to remember again that there is a definite difference between how they view alcohol and cannabis.
problem,
Number one,
though.
because
There shouldn't
the
be.
alcohol lobbyists are very, very generous. I mean, face it, they actually got rid of Four Loko, right? But now they have Mountain Dew with alcohol in it. What is the difference?
Riddle me that. How is that not advertising to children?
I think that the difference is yellow number 5, Gary.
And yellow appeals to children, which gets me to my next point, and that is this idea of protecting the children is really a red herring.
Yes.
I mean, generally the purveyors, the shop owners are very particular about making certain that kids do not have access to this product. I've seen people who have edibles that make certain that no kid gets a cookie. Carlos doesn't let people in there under the age of 21, and definitely would never let them buy anything. But they are putting all these bills to make certain that we don't make any products attractive to kids, which makes it difficult to market because a lot of times adults are just basically, Peter Pan effect, are basically kids. You cannot tell me that, Disney, by putting out songs that people listened to when they're 40 years ago, are not catering to the kid inside of adults. Well, it's all part of marketing.
That goes back to what you said about Sunny D and Mountain Dew. They're marketing to millennials and Gen Xers. They're trying to hit our childhood, and because now we're old enough to buy their products and be addicts, And
us boomers know better.
Well, I want to go back to this idea of participating in the political process and how you feel afterwards. It reminds me of that scene in Braveheart, where if you didn't go up there and you didn't participate, and you're an old man years from now lying in your bed, are you going to have regrets that I didn't say my piece, that I didn't at least go up there and attempt to fight? And that's the difference. That's why Alex drives his 9 hours in his electric car to get up there, not knowing if it's going to make a difference. That's why Carlos is willing to close his shop and lose business to go up there and fight for everybody else's businesses. Because the fact is that
we're still open. Please shop here.
And by the way, if you do come up there, by all means, stay on Monday or come by on Wednesday and talk to these legislators in person,
Yes.
because it is great talking to the group, to a committee, but even more importantly, if you talk to these people on a one-on-one basis, it's amazing how much impact you can have. You can leave them with a thought that will still be in their head when you leave.
Yeah. You know, it's
I'm happy that Fishy Pies just, but Alex mentioned what Daryl Roussan asked Colleen Burden, and that was direct from a meeting that Daryl Roussan, a 5-minute meeting with me and Vinny from Fishy Pies had with Daryl Roussan directly before the hearing,
Yeah.
so, or the workshop or whatever the fuck it is, committee.
And I know I give Daryl a lot of shit, you know, because he
A lot of shit.
because he passed that bill that you can't say bong in Carlos's shop years ago. But the fact is, Carlos is right. Even a legislature that you may think may not be on your team, if you sit down with them and you talk to them one-on-one, it can make a really big impact, because the truth is that these people are elected representatives. They're not subject matter experts in every single thing that's going on in the state. You know, so you yourself as a citizen and as a business owner, as someone who participates in whatever industry you participate in, you have to go up there and educate these folks.
And we talk a lot of shit about our legislator, but there are a good amount of them, enough to make an impact.
Yeah.
That want to do the right thing. I want to help out.
And for folks in the Tallahassee area, we have a senator by the name of Collins, who happens to be head of the Agricultural Committee. Wouldn't be a bad idea if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area to give his office a call. Possibly even ask him if you can do a Zoom call if you can't get to Tallahassee, or definitely write him a letter that is actually a written letter and not just the email, because emails get lost in the flurry.
Yep. Furthermore, if you're a veteran, shout out to our friends at the Weed for Warriors Project for joining us for lobby days last week. But contact Senator Collins as well and let him know that you are a veteran and that you utilize hemp products, that that the MMTCs either don't have the quality you need or they're out of price for you, and that you don't feel that it's right that this crackdown is again, it's anti-free market, it's anti-civil liberties, and we have to do something to address it.
We did have a good bit of veterans last year specifically say that to Collins, and I'm pretty positive he just passed it right along. Unfortunately, I'm starting to become a believer that truly being one of the largest single contributors to the Senate GOP, that even if these elected officials wanted to vote no, Senate leadership is telling them you pass this through, regardless of what their personal thoughts are. Like you said, though, I think the best thing we can do is leave them with a message, a letter, a meeting, to when they are still voting yes, in the back of their head, they know it's wrong.
And also, this is another important fact that a lot of people who are involved in the political process will mention to you. It's not just the legislator themselves. They have a staff which is there to go ahead and give them information and to collect information from the public. These legislative aides are more than willing to talk to you if the legislator is too busy going back-to-back committees and things of that sort. Talk to them. Your message will go to that legislator. That is their job to do that, and they do it well.
Corey Simon, who's on the committee hearing on Tuesday, he's actually I'm his constituent in Leon County. And I attended his town hall last week. It was an hour and a half. I had a question queued, never got it answered. I ended up calling the next day and tried to get clarification on what is Corey Simon's stance on Senate Bill 1698. And I let them know that I wanted to know because a committee hearing was coming up on Tuesday. Unfortunately, the aide replied to me was, well, I guess you'll know your answer on Tuesday, won't you? And then have a good day, and hung up. So I'm already kind of knowing where this vote's going to go. And like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, luckily there is some great attorneys that are watching this very carefully and already prepping to challenge this in the court system. I think, quite honestly, that is going to be where we'll be in 3 months from now.
The briefs are being built as we speak. That is basically the way it works. That happens a lot, by the way, in Tallahassee, that as a bill is going through committee hearings, there are lawyers out there who are already building briefs to go ahead and oppose the bill as soon as it gets signed, because that is what happens. That's how a lot of bills end up delayed as far as their implementation for sometimes months or even years. And it happens a lot, but that's just all part of the process. And also the committee process is a process. It's not a matter of one meeting and it passes, although it is in some cases, and it goes going straight to the chamber for a vote. This is the first committee of 3 committees. So give them this information so they can change the bill. And that's what we did last year. We got them to change the bill prior to its entry into the House and Senate chambers. And that's how we fixed it. So this is the base. This is where we're starting from. Help them fix the first couple things, and we'll go on to the next things. We may not be successful in knocking the bill down, but we can morph it into something which is a lot more palatable and possibly even helpful to the industry.
We did that last year, I'd say, with the attractive to children paragraph. What a doozy that one was. Now we get to re-identify what's attractive to children every single year for the rest of our lives, which is always going to change. My concern, I'm thinking now, is I don't see what's going to happen with these hemp establishments in this purgatory process of it's going through the committees. Do I close shop now? It's at the last committee. Do I wait it out? Okay, it's passed. It's going to be challenged in court. Do I wait to see how it plays out in court before I close my business? I mean, there's lots of people that have taken out loans to get invested. I feel sorry for them. You know, I don't know what they should do. I have a lot of clients calling me asking what should we do other than traveling to Tallahassee and letting out your 2 cents and at least not looking back with a regret. I don't have a good answer for them. I don't know what they should do. You know?
Well, here's my answer in regards to attractive to children kind of situation. They have decided that the best packaging that could possibly not be attractive to children is to have a package that is white with black lettering. And they're saying that will be enough to deter kids from wanting to have access to this at all. They'll be so offended by a white label with a black lettering on it that they won't even touch the thing. Well, here's the deal. When I was a kid, you used to get free prizes inside cereal, and you knew the cereal was crap. You didn't care what was on the box, whether it was a frog or a bear or a tiger or whatever, but you knew there was a toy inside there. So you opened it up and you shoved your hand in there. You broke as much cereal as possible, and then you got the toy, and you were able to buy a toy at the price of a box of cereal. If kids know what's inside, they may actually consider that more important than what's on the outside, because kids aren't stupid.
There you go. You know, it's like they utilize security and safety for children as an excuse to crack down on our civil rights and on people's businesses. And they've used that in numerous ways, you know, over the years. But the fact is that it's getting old. People are tired of it. And Gary, as you just pointed out, kids do not care what type of package something comes in if they want to get after it. You know,
I saw a pink bleach bottle over at Walmart. I'm sure girls would love a pink bottle of bleach.
So, you know, one thing I do want to say is
drink it up. Huh?
Don't give up. Don't give up fighting. I do want to give a simple example. You know, Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia has stood against retail sales of cannabis, despite the fact that in 2021, the Virginia General Assembly passed a bill that made it legal for adults 21 and over to possess up to an ounce of cannabis. And Republicans in Virginia have stalled that legislation that would establish a marketplace for recreational use. The Democrats finally took control of both chambers in the last election, and now they're going to be pushing through Senate Bill 423, which creates a framework of retail medical marijuana market in the Virginia Commonwealth. And the governor said he's gonna veto it, but you know, there's a possibility of them working to override that veto. So, you know, that being said, sometimes these fights pan out over the course of years, you know, so you're saying every single year you're going back, you know, in the grand scheme of thing, you know, it's going to take a combination of, you know, citizens going up there, engaging the process, and then getting engaged in the elections, because it's a cycle. You get pissed off, you don't like what these legislators are doing, replace them. They say that politicians and baby diapers should be changed frequently for the same reasons.
And don't forget also, and since 1971, there have been over 240 cannabis bills to try to fix the problem they created in 1971 with the Controlled Substance Act. And yet every year, the number of bills increases, not decreases, because we know this is a game of inches and a game of years. And so we will continue to work hard, and hopefully more will get this done, and others will go on as we see.
Yeah, I'm glad. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Going back to the marijuana side of things, what is y'all's interpretation of the recreational ballot in Florida and the line specifically that says other state licensed entities? Are y'all familiar with that?
Yeah, what that is doing is essentially creating, because obviously the writers of the bill knew how bad the Florida legislature could fuck things up. So they're creating the opportunity for the legislature to create other licenses than the as you said, the 30-year MMTC type of license, and whether that might be smaller micro licenses, whether that might be social equity licenses, hell, maybe even social use lounges. There's so much opportunity there, but I believe that the writers of that saw the foresight of the legislature to screw things up and created that category there for that to be used. That's my interpretation, but again, I'm a liberal. That's a liberal interpretation of that. Maybe maybe you have something more nefarious that you might take away from it, but that's my 2 cents.
I guess it was the hope that those in the open free hemp market would one day be grandfathered into doing recreational if other passed. The problem is that hemp food establishments are permitted. They're not licensed. So I'm pretty sure that line has implications, but it doesn't involve any hemp establishment permit holders currently. My thoughts were maybe alcohol distribution, liquor license, but
It is intentionally vague.
yeah.
And I say that as an independent because I can tell you that they can take those words and bend them to any direction they really want them to. They can either make it so that alcohol distributors can go ahead and sell blunts behind the counter, or they can make certain that only certain licenses, and that excludes smoke shops and convenience shops, etc., can go ahead and sell quote unquote recreational cannabis. But by just saying other licensed entities, that really keeps it open to misinterpretation.
There you go.
You guys with NORML and Suncoast, I know y'all hold events. Did you know that in this hemp bill, it would require anyone holding an event that has a hemp vendor to be approved by the state before the event takes place? Is that a violation of my First Amendment right, freedom of assembly?
Not necessarily, because there are event laws in a lot of other states that basically say if you were going to have a cannabis event, then you have to get approval from the state. That you see it in Pennsylvania, California, Colorado, Arizona, a whole bunch of different places. So there are event laws in place just to make them licensed. And
in other words, a nice way to fleece us for more money just to host an event.
Yeah, licensing fee.
Got it.
So,
And now we have to get to the news here yet, but Alec, is there, if anybody wants to get to you for more information, where can they get a hold of you?
You can email Alex at floridahempdistribution.com, or you could email our product manufacturing company. And the email there would be alex at crystalcreekorganics.com. Again, we're product manufacturers, distributors, and we opened up a chain of retail stores.
And let's not forget, you can pick up any Crystal Creek products at any Chillum location.
That's right. Chillum there in Ybor has all of the best Crystal Creek Organics products. Not that they're all not great, but Chillum has the best.
And it comes in discreet packaging.
Oh yeah, we went with the health and wellness approach rather than with the grungy smoke shop. Let's get high, This is more of we started health and wellness, and if we're gonna die, we're gonna die with health and wellness.
But you can still use those products to get high.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like a Fruity Pebbles box.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a Fruity Pebbles box. It looks like
or a Mr. Goodbar chocolate.
Holistic,
So what the heck is going on in the world today, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. Carlos, we run the news segment.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So look, very clearly, we've been talking this whole show about hemp, medical marijuana, and the fact is that there's this big fight still among politicians and in the legislative circles of whether or not it's a safe product to use. Looking at a study coming out of Pharmacopsychiatry. It's a journal with research coming out of Germany. Medical cannabis patients associated with symptom improvements in patients with major depressive disorder. So they looked at patients who had severe depression, and they actually saw a major increase of folks doing much better after looking at a study of folks suffering from major depression. Also, we're looking at cannabis products provide sustained improvements in patients with generalized anxiety disorder, published in the Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology Reports. And that's a UK study that's coming out. So when we hear this whole idea of, we need to do more study, we need to do more studies. Well, the fact is that there are tens of thousands of studies happening every single year on cannabis, and we can clearly see that. In a recent survey data published in the journal Cancers, investigators affiliated with the University of Texas, Anderson Cancer Center, and Johns Hopkins University surveyed over 1,800 cancer survivors from 41 states, and just under half, 48% of them, acknowledge having experience with cannabis. Cannabis use among cancer survivors is widespread. Also, looking at a recent analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association, cannabis use plays little role in cardiovascular deaths related to substance use. Researchers affiliated with the University of Mississippi Medical Center analyzed substance use related mortality trends from 1999 to 2019, and that report showed that alcohol likely played a role in 65% of all cardiovascular deaths related to substance use. Opioids were implicated in 14% of deaths, and cocaine was linked to just right under 10% of deaths. Cannabis associated with fewer than less than 1% of all substance use related cardiovascular deaths. And of course, you have to connect that to whether other mitigating symptoms in all of that. So that being said, the whole idea that cannabis will kill you is again a farce that we continue to see, with bad science replicated and good science showing time and time again that cannabis is a product that people are using to get healthy, from everything from cancer to depression to anxiety. And that brings me to the fact that the Department of Health and Human Services finally released the unredacted documents late on Friday, publicly affirming the agency's decision that marijuana can be reclassified from Schedule 1, meaning it has no medicinal value, to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. Now, to be clear, NORML is opposed to Schedule 3 scheduling of cannabis. We do not believe it should be rescheduled. We believe cannabis should be descheduled. It should not be a controlled substance, and it damn sure should not be Schedule 3, because the fact is that it is virtually impossible for the proper licensing and studying of Schedule 3 medicines to apply to the cannabis plant and how we currently utilize it. And that Schedule 3 will just open up the way, much of the fear that you folks in the hemp industry have for major MMTCs and multi-state operators to essentially be the only ones that can get federal licenses to actually sell it. And that is,
and one thing that they really don't talk about much in regards to descheduling and rescheduling is that when the Controlled Substance Act was actually enacted, there was a clause in it that said that it could be descheduled by a recommendation from the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General. However, for rescheduling to a different one, that requires input from the DEA and USDA.
Indeed. And that's why, again, NORML stands opposed to Schedule 3. We fully believe it should be descheduled. Again, trying to jump through all these hoops to get licenses and all that, I mean, it's basically saying that you should be allowed your civil rights. And again, civil rights based on our Constitution are inalienable and granted by our Creator. There's no and even if you're an atheist, they're just they're granted to you by birth, if you will. There is no way that we should be having to pay for a license to engage in our civil rights. In the grand scheme of things, this is a plant. It grows out of the earth. If you're telling me I have to have a license to consume a plant, now we're venturing into dangerous territory. And is this the free country that it espouses to be?
Now, we should also note that there is a situation that occurs in Tallahassee right now where they have set up the renewal for MMTC licenses to have a $1.45 million fee.
Woo!
Now that used to be 60,000. For some odd reason, it got bumped up. I would say it's possible that there may have been an MMTC True Leaf that may have been so successful that it wouldn't affect them at all. But if you are going after these smaller, less effective MMTCs, they will have a problem with that. In fact, that may even impact their ability to stay in business.
Over $1 million for a license where it was 60,000. We were cracking down on the fact earlier that the black farmer license was 140,000, where the initial Big Five only spent 60,000 on theirs. That is absolutely ludicrous to think that millions of dollars to renew and get that license. It puts it out of reach for the average business owner. And I can't see why we would create new industries that are not open to every American. Only the rich are allowed to sell weed. Come on. It disgusts me. And the fact that the corruption that we saw behind it. The fact that JT Burnett and Scott Maddox were trying to corner the market in Tallahassee. That we saw, how these corruption charges essentially just let these guys go to Club Fed and have these light sentences. That public corruption in this country doesn't demand a harder sentence. To me, is quite disgusting.
And we're coming up on the 2nd year anniversary of the application for the Pigford license and the 1st year anniversary of the last application process. And yet not a single license has been distributed or awarded at that point in time. Now, partly the Pigford license is because of the fact that the person who won actually had the member who wrote the initial application had passed away, and they didn't belong to the to the rest of the family. They're trying to fix that by way of a bill right now. So we still haven't given out that first one yet. And of course, the rest of them, well, again, the longer it takes for them to actually get on board, the more time the current MMTCs have a chance to continue growing and growing and growing to the point where when these guys actually get into the market, they may be so far behind they won't be able to catch up or have equity in the market.
Gary, maybe if we had a Surgeon General in Florida who spent more time paying attention to the Department of Health rather than going out there and saying that vaccines will kill you or make you, a little, whatever.
Maybe if we start giving out free ivermectin samples with all of our blunts, then Ledipo might just pay attention to us because he does sell it online. That would cut into it.
I just don't get it. I don't get how these politicians spend more time pontificating than take care of their district. Ron DeSantis has spent so much time trying to be president of the United States and trying to out Trump that he has totally neglected this state, the issues facing medical marijuana patients. We continue to see people fired from their jobs, good public employees like teachers, firefighters, correction workers losing their jobs, people losing their professional licenses, and they're using the medicine legally and by the books, and they're still being penalized for it. And that is wrong. And Ron DeSantis, frankly, you don't deserve to be president of the United States the way you have run Florida.
Christopher, I actually can add on to that a little bit. Some people are being fired for using hemp products as well. I was subpoenaed in 2019 because a parole officer had purchased products from a retailer that I was working with at the time, tested positive for THC, and was fired. And he challenged it. I got subpoenaed as the person who sold him the products and had to go and testify with me and Michael Minardi and essentially show these people that he bought a licensed, a legal, permitted product, that he has every right to be able to use the products, and yet he was still fired. And I still remember this to this day. The judge asked, do you know if cannabis is legal? Is marijuana legal in Colorado? And my reply is, well, that's not relevant. We're in Florida. And his reply was, actually, I'm the judge, so I'll say what's relevant. Please answer the question. I go, oh, I'm sorry. Please ask the question again. He goes, do you know if marijuana is legal in Colorado? And my reply was, I don't know. I'm in Florida. And that was that. He still get fired. we tried to help him save his job, but ultimately he didn't get to keep it, and that's a problem that still teachers have a huge risk. And I'm dating a teacher, so I can tell you this. They have a huge risk from being able to use these legal hemp products because over time, THC is fat soluble. They bond to fat cells in your body. They can stay in your system longer if you have a higher BMI. And if they test positive for THC, you can bet your ass they're going to be fired.
And you can legally buy THCA flower, by the way. You can buy THCA flower legally right now, but you can still test for Delta 9 THC after you imbibe, and therefore they can arrest you for that because it would not have your name on it. It's not official. You don't have a medical card that covers that.
You know what's funny, Gary?
And not be pulled over and not be tested.
You're absolutely right. And even if the state were to ban THCA flower, which this bill does attempt to do, there's nothing stopping me as a distributor purchasing 1 million pounds of THCA, bringing it into this state, and then wholesaling it out of state, remaining in interstate commerce. I could do that all day long. But the moment that I sell it to a retailer in Florida and then they retail it, then you fall under the state law and then it's an illegal product. So there's nothing stopping a distributor. The risk doesn't fall on the distributor. The risk falls on people like Carlos who are really retailing it at the store. So you'll have distributors trying to, THCA is legal. Let me sell you some. No problem. Carlos takes the risk. He picks some up. The liability falls on Carlos. It doesn't follow on that distributor that sold him that product. He's remaining in interstate commerce. He doesn't go by the state law until he's retailing it or reselling it within the state.
And that is exactly the opposite of prohibition, where basically it was illegal to buy it, but not illegal to drink it.
Yeah. It's a backwards world out here, man.
Whew. Well, hell, this is one hell of a show today, fellas. There is a lot going on in Tallahassee. Legislative session is in full swing. We talked about many of the bills. There were a ton of other bills that Gary and myself co-wrote and put together. But the fact is, the legislative process being what it is, there were delays in drafting. Trying to get sponsors was an issue. And then, there were 9 committee weeks that happened even before the legislative session even started. So much of the same way Alex and Carlos alluded to earlier, the leadership of the Florida legislature has already picked and chosen what is going to move this session. And so we as citizens now, if you're engaging in lobby days like we did last week, sadly, we're already late to the dance in a lot of ways. And so, we're just going through the motions to say our piece and to speak out. But again, you got to get involved in the legislative process early. You got to get involved if you're sitting at home with us at NORML. Get off the couch, become a member, come to our meetings, check out the events. We do everything that we can to showcase, folks who are doing it right in the industry at our events. We do everything that we can to educate folks at our meetings. And of course, we just had our lobby days last week in conjunction with our friends of the We for Warriors Project, the Florida Cannabis Action Network, and a number of other hemp businesses that went up there to Tallahassee to say their piece and educate legislators. And so again, if you're not engaging in the process, then we don't have much rights to complain. We got to get off the couch. We got to get off of social media from behind the screens and get FaceTime with our legislators. But if you want to do something, you can, go to our website and you can actually go to our bill tracker at suncoastnorml.org, and you can send an email to your legislators on each of the bills that are pending that have to do with cannabis this legislative session, whether that's opposing the THC caps, whether that's supporting bills like decriminalization, medical cards for our veterans. And again, next Tuesday, the 23rd at 1 p.m. in room 301 in the Senate building. Be there for the hearing on the hemp bill. Speak out against it. Tell folks that you don't believe the THC caps are right. Tell folks that the packaging to children is been used time and time again as a farce to take away civil liberties. Tell them that it doesn't seem right. We as nonprofits have to get an extra license just to showcase the great businesses like Alex, Carlos, and Cushy Pies at our events.
And with all due respect, Guy, and I'm talking to some people who are commenting today, the term shill actually means that you are paid by somebody to fake some kind of enrichment. And the fact is, we don't get paid by any MSOs. Yes, we have had them have booths at some of our events, but that goes towards the cost of the event. It doesn't go to us. I can guarantee you for a fact, we are not getting rich off of the MSOs. We are not getting paid by the MSOs. We do not get enriched in any way, shape, or form. In fact, we're constantly knocking down the MSOs and trying to keep them in line. So, no, sorry.
Yeah, I was actually about to talk to you guys about that. We should have totally sold out. 'Cause it looks like these fucking they're gonna pass adult use, and we're not gonna be a part of the business, and they're not gonna allow home grow. And all the shit that we've done, we've still got people in our chat saying that we're against home grow, even though we talked about it all through the fucking beginning of the fucking show. But
yeah, I wanted to buy A-Rod's mansion, and now I won't be able to.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
should have
God.
just fucking got paid, bro. Like, this is America. I know.
I wish my executive director salary, I should have bumped it up from that huge check that Kim Rivers cut, man. What the fuck?
I just know that we should have gotten paid.
You know,
We should have just fucking gotten it. We got nothing to show for this.
no, we don't. We don't. We have nothing to show for the fact that we have stood our ground, our integrity. We've not allowed these multi-state operators to advertise on our websites. We've not allowed multi-state operators to buy off our chapter, our silence, and trust me, though those offers have been made.
But we have pantsed them many times.
It's
Pride
true.
will take you a long, long way. Carlos, I got some feedback for some automated sounds for the podcast. I don't know if you're a South Park fan or not, but they took our jobs would be a really good one.
Or the fact they ain't got no integrity. That's
no integrity, none.
And they're trying to develop Mexican Joker, which I don't really approve of.
Well, team, look again. We ask folks who are listening, like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube right now, feel free to share this. Retweet us on Twitter. If you're on Twitch, I don't even know how that works. If you're on Facebook, give us a comment, a like, a share. But become a member of Suncoast NORML. The first step is follow us on social media, and then go to our website, become a dues paid member for only $25 a year. I do it in my Sally Struthers voice. You too can help a poor patient that doesn't have home grow rights to help us achieve exactly what we're trying to do in Tallahassee.
And I do apologize to George Santos, who could have sworn that we were on OnlyFans, but we weren't. So I can't have it.
And George Santos, George Soros, I don't care which George it is, but if you got money to donate to NORML, please do. I would very much like to have all these donations from these billionaires coming in that we've been accused of accepting, so we can actually do some good work with it.
You just gave me an idea, Gary. In order to compensate for working with Suncoast NORML, I'm going to start an OnlyFans.
And on that day, I will weep.
You guys want to buy pictures of my feet, or what's up?
I got pretty nails,
Okay. Program note: in 2 weeks from now, we do have Senator Chevron Jones coming on to talk about his decrim bill and what he hopes to do to make it move forward. And we hope to have a lot more legislators during the session come on and tell us what the hell is going on up there. See, I didn't say fuck that time. I guess that would be better for us, right?
We try really hard to bring you all great content, great guests each and every week. So we ask for your support of the show. We also have a Patreon page. So if you want to become a Patreon member and support the show, by all means, check out our newsletters. If you're not on our email list, go onto our website and go on there. And politicians, if you've blocked Boycott Legal Weed on Twitter, go ahead and unblock them. They're asking us to make that ask for you. Hey, by all means, talk that shit. We appreciate it. We appreciate those of y'all engaging us online. We don't delete negative comments, just pornographic ones. So we have no problem engaging in them.
And I have a problem with that too. But I do want to mention one thing that I almost forgot to mention today because it came up this morning. But our governor, who from what I understand is running for president and not doing that well, suddenly had a shift and said he does not believe that there is any problem with a person who uses cannabis to be able to own a gun.
Well, then maybe the state can drop their goddamn challenge to Nikki Fried's gun rights lawsuit that she started. Or, better yet, Gary, the bill that we wrote to protect the Second Amendment rights, I would ask that one of those NRA Republicans in the state legislature go ahead and take that bill as an amendment onto one of their bills this session that they plan on ramming through the House and Senate to the governor's desk. Because by all means, your right as a medical marijuana patient should not cause you to give up any constitutional rights, whether that's the right to free speech, the right to assembly, or the right to bear arms.
And there are folks on the left who are saying it's a sensitive topic. They don't not certainly want to breach, but I would suggest they breach it because you have to. It's out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of things you do are sensitive topics anyway. You can't avoid.
Well, you know, Nikki Haley also said that, you know, she's going to support South Carolina doing whatever it can to pass medical marijuana. And I'm like, well, where was that when you were governor? You know, so we got to hold these politicians, as they're now in the limelight, wanting to step up to the next level, accountable. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis have done absolutely jack shit when it comes to protecting the civil liberties of medical marijuana patients in their states.
Okay, we're going to have to chop this show up to do some sound bites later on. But remember, Tuesday, 1 o'clock, Tallahassee. Be there. Peace out.